Hello, Swifties, and welcome back to the Pack. That's right, Captain Natty and the Chemist here, coming at you live from YouTube with Season 3, Episode 5 of the Swift Boyz Podcast. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and bring all your friends over to the Pack Swifties. Today we're going to be talking about the last great American dynasty. There are a few explicit words in this song, as the intro may have already alluded to. So, Captain Natty, why don't you start us off with getting right into it? Tell us what the last great American dynasty is all about, the third song off the Folklore album.
The last great American dynasty. It's about the person who owned Taylor Swift's Rhode Island house before she owned it.
Holiday House, as
called
they call
Holiday
it.
House, correct. Apparently, the person who used to live at the house Taylor Swift owns on the coast of Rhode Island was a crazy party animal, had her friends, called the Bitch Pack. She married into a wealthy family, and then the husband died, and she just went crazy with her Bitch Pack friends.
Her name was Rebecca Harkness?
Yes.
Harkness. Rebecca Harkness. But her friends called her Betty. So, maybe a connection to the best song on the Folklore album? You be the judge of that, Swifties. So, Captain Natty, this is a bit of a little bit of a what do you say it when it's different from normal?
Different from normal.
Just a little bit.
It's an odd one out. It's a little oddball.
This is different from most Taylor Swift songs in that it's not about her.
Right,
it's about a specific person.
Right, it's different from most Taylor Swift songs in general, like in all her discography, because it's specifically about someone else. But within Folklore, it's not so different than the rest of the songs.
Right.
Except for the fact that it is specifically about like a historical person.
Yes,
right?
And a bit of a spoiler alert, it will bring in Taylor Swift herself as we switch from the third person to the first person at the end of the song.
Right. So basically when I hear this song, I get massive Starlight vibes.
Yes.
Because that's the only real other song I think that she's written that is specifically referencing a historical person, an historical event. And it's from the same or similar time period, looking back into like the 1900s. I mean, it's a little different, but similar kind of like historical feel. The songs sound similar, although if you've listened to our review of Starlight, you know I'm not a huge fan of Starlight. I do like this song. I think this is much better than Starlight. But there are times where I'm listening to this song, The Last Great American Dynasty, and I'm like getting massive flashbacks.
Right. And Starlight was, of course, about Ethel Kennedy, and some people do refer to the Kennedys as an American dynasty. Since so many of them were in positions of political power. So that might be another connection there. This is a song about the Roaring 20s, as much of this album is. We all know that Taylor is a huge fan of the Great Gatsby type time period, lifestyle, new money versus old money. All those themes are going to be in this song here.
I don't think she lived in the Roaring 20s, though.
Who,
Rebecca? It's a similar theme, but I don't think this is actually in the Roaring 20s.
Well, what time period is it?
Like the mid 1900s. Like it's not that long ago.
Well, at least she was alive in the Roaring 20s.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Captain Natty asked me when he got here. He's like, "Oh, did you study Rebecca's life or look up the stuff and read the history?" I was like, "Do you not understand what this podcast is? If I had done any prep, this would have been a different podcast." But no, this is the Swift Boyz Podcast, Bitch Pack episode, The Last Great American Dynasty.
Anyway, should we get into the lyrics?
Yes, let me read you verse 1 of The Last Great American Dynasty. It goes as follows. Rebecca rode up on the afternoon train. It was sunny. Her salt box house on the coast took her mind off St. Louis. Bill was the heir to the Standard Oil name and money. And the town said, "How did a middle-class divorcee do it?"
So before we talk about those lyrics, I feel like it's probably worth mentioning to our non-YouTube listeners that every time they hear a ding, we're clinking glasses.
Captain Natty said he wanted to clink glasses every time we said The Last Great American Dynasty.
But I just realized, as a podcast, you can't see us doing that on YouTube. In fact, so you're just every time we're saying that, you're just hearing a ding. It's probably quite annoying. So
right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's probably a really terrible sound in your headphones.
But we're doing it. Sorry.
We're losing listeners left and right.
Pretty normal episode for the Swift Boys, so, it is what it is. Anyway, so back to the lyrics. Rebecca rode up on the afternoon train. It was sunny. Just setting the stage, starting the song off right. Boom, name drop. That's rare for Taylor. It's a different song. She doesn't usually name drop people like this. But, this is a historical song. We're introduced to the protagonist, Rebecca, moving from St. Louis to the Salt Box House in Rhode Island that Taylor Swift would buy many years later.
Correct. And, of course, it's called a Salt Box House because it's on the ocean being salt water. So the house is collecting, salt, essentially, being so close to the water. And Bill, her husband, is the heir to the Standard Oil name. Of course, the company that Carnegie created. The wealthiest person in American history, up until I think he was surpassed by Jeff Bezos recently.
Anyway, so Rebecca's marrying into a lot
Correct.
of money. She was divorced, and then she gets remarried. And that's why the town says, how did a middle-class divorcee do it? How did this, they don't know anything about her yet, but how did she manage to marry into this super massively wealthy family?
Yeah, so one thing we'll see in this song is that the town doesn't seem to like Rebecca. And we don't know a lot about why. Maybe it's because she's a bit of a prankster, as we'll see. Or maybe she's a prankster because they didn't like her. Who knows?
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
We'll never know. But let's dig a little bit more into it as I continue verse 1. The wedding was charming, if a little gauche. There's only so far new money goes. They picked out a home and called it Holiday House. Their parties were tasteful, if a little loud. The doctor had told them to settle down. It must have been her fault his heart gave out.
So you can picture the wedding, charming but a little gauche. So I hope I'm not the only person who had to look up the word gauche. I'd never heard it before. It just kind of means socially awkward, charming but gauche. You can see it's oh, this is nice, but there's just parts where you're just kind of cringe. As that's kind of how I picture it, because you have this super wealthy dude marrying this clearly crazy woman,
right?
And we don't really know much about this guy, but he's just an heir to Standard Oil names. That doesn't mean he's a super intelligent person. That he's probably massive too, because he dies from a heart attack in 2 lines of the song.
Right. So the definition of gauche, as I just looked up, lacking ease or grace, unsophisticated, and socially awkward. So she says there's only so far new money goes. So this is going back to the Great Gatsby, new money versus old money. Old money being those who inherited their wealth through generations and generations. New money meaning those who earned their wealth and now have money for the first time. I guess this is a little bit confusing to me because we hear that he is the heir to the Standard Oil name, so he should be old money.
Well, no, she's new money, though.
She's new money, but he's old money. That's what it's saying? Okay.
Yes.
And so, since she's new money, she doesn't understand high fashion. And so, when she has unlimited money to decorate her wedding, it comes off a little gauche. And then, their parties were tasteful, if a little loud, going back to those Great Gatsby parties. The doctor had told him to settle down. So as Captain Natty mentioned, he's probably a huge guy, having all the money he wants. He's not missing any meals here. And then he presumably dies of a heart attack. And now Taylor Swift sarcastically says, it must have been her fault his heart gave out.
Right, and let's not skip over the line there, their parties were tasteful, if a little loud, because that's pointing to, when he was alive, okay, they were a little loud, but they were tasteful. They probably had their neighbors over. Mm-hmm. They were good, respectful parties. But then later we're going to see, once the husband's gone and she has all this money, she flies the bitch back in. They get down to business.
That's right, Swifties. And they said, there goes the last great American dynasty. Who knows if she never showed up, what could have been? There goes the maddest woman this town has ever seen. She had a marvelous time ruining everything. So, the town believes she's ruining everything because the husband dies, she inherits the money, and she's presumably spending it in ways that they don't appreciate. She's, having these loud parties and these gauche celebrations. So the town doesn't like this new money Rebecca. They call her the maddest woman this town has ever seen.
Which is a foreshadow to a later song on the album, Mad Woman.
Mad Woman.
Which is from Rebecca's perspective.
Oh,
Taylor says that the song Mad Woman is about a misfit widow getting gleeful revenge on the town that cast her out.
So is it sort of a sequel to this? Because this one is the town casting her out, and then later she gets revenge?
I wouldn't call it a sequel. This is just from different perspectives. This is Taylor looking back at the story, and then, obviously ends up from her perspective.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Mad Woman is clearly from Rebecca's perspective in the moment when all her neighbors hate her.
All right. Well, I haven't looked ahead too much, so I don't know anything about Mad Woman yet. I don't prep this episode, so I certainly don't prep 5 episodes ahead. She had a marvelous time ruining everything. That's a theme we'll hear throughout the album. I think that does come up in Mad Woman, right? She has a marvelous time ruining everything in Mad Woman as well.
Not that line specifically.
Oh.
But yes.
I thought it did.
In a way. I think that line, she had a marvelous time ruining everything, that's the line that most reminds me of Starlight. I don't exactly know. I don't have like a lyric in my head from Starlight because, as you know, I don't like it very much. I don't listen to it very often. But it's the way she sings it, like the musical style a lot. And then later in the song, like, it's not like a bridge, but she kind of repeats it a bunch. And it just is like, the sound reminds me so much of like Red Taylor and that song specifically.
Let me just look up if the word marvelous appears. A marvelous tune. Oh my, what a marvelous tune.
That's why. Okay.
Yeah, it is in that song.
Oh my, what a marvelous tune. Yeah, so.
It was the best night, never would forget how we moved.
And then marvelous time, Renee. Okay, so it's right.
Not only is it in it, but it's in the first line of the song.
That's why I remember, because that's all I know from the song. Right. The first line.
Because as we know, this Starlight was a song that begins with the chorus, as we know is a faux pas, according to Captain Natty.
True story.
Rebecca gave up on the Rhode Island set forever. So this is after her husband dies.
Husband dies. She's done with her neighbors.
She's moving out.
Flying the bitch back.
Well, okay, so I guess she doesn't move out. She says she gave up on the Rhode Island set.
Like set of Friends. That's how I'm interpreting it.
That I agree with that. So she's not moving away, but she says, "I'm done with you. I'm gonna live my own life." Flew in her bitch pack friends from the city. So we actually did see on Wikipedia that. The historical Rebecca did have a group of friends that she called the Bitch Pack. And so she flew them in, and they had a marvelous time ruining everything. Now we go on to all of the various pranks that they pulled on the town. She filled her pool with champagne, swam with the big names, such as Salvador Dali, and blew through the money on the boys in the ballet. So here's a line. She blew through the money on the boys in the ballet. We do know that Rebecca started the Harkness Foundation, which was a foundation for the performing arts, specifically ballet. She commissioned a couple ballet studios all over the world. And
she even had a dance studio built in her front yard that her neighbors hated.
Right. So she spent her money on high art, supporting the arts.
Just swimming in champagne and watching ballet, that's the life.
Yeah. I wonder if that's something that actually happened, filling an entire swimming bowl of champagne.
I believe it.
That would be pretty crazy.
If I had a swimming pool and that much money, I'd at least think about it. I don't know if I'd pull the trigger, but I'd probably... It'd cross my mind once or twice.
Yeah.
And if I had a bitch pack, that sounds a lot worse coming out of...
Don't we all wish we had a bitch pack?
Oh, okay. We're cutting that part out.
I don't know if it'd be good for your skin, swimming in champagne.
It'd be yummy. Would it?
I think it'd be sticky.
Yeah, it'd be sticky. But you could drink it.
So she blew through her money on the boys in the ballet and losing on card game bets with Dolly. So that gives us the time period we're in, that Salvador Dali is famous at this time.
Right, and that she's rich enough to have Salvador Dali come and play cards with her.
Right.
Like, wild. Okay.
Pretty wild. Salvador Dali, of course, the painter of that clocks painting where the clocks are melting.
Yeah, just, classic 1900s Dadaism, right? That's the...
Don't ask me.
I think it's the Dada is the genre. If my college Art 101 teacher is listening, I hope you're proud of me.
I was looking over to our head of marketing there for confirmation, but he didn't know. Oh, speaking of other members of the Swift Boys Bitch Pack, let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Because
we all know who you're about to bring up.
Speaking of other members of the Swift Boys team, we did just get an intern. So hopefully our social media presence will be a little more ubiquitous as we are able to shift some responsibility to the intern. And if you're listening, Brittany, thank you for coming on as our intern. It's been a pleasure having you.
Oh, yeah. Fun fact about our intern. She actually gave us the idea for our name.
That is true.
Yeah.
The Swift Boys. as we are now called.
Yep.
I think we came up with using the Z, though.
Yeah.
During the Dada-inspired movement.
Dada. It is Dada.
It is?
I'm right.
Okay,
Cool.
confirmed.
But it's surrealism.
Right.
Like the overall.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so
No,
Dali
Dada.
paints in surrealism during the Dada movement.
Yeah, now Scott sounds like the smart one.
Yeah.
Swifties, we then get another instance of the chorus, but it is a little bit different. We get one line of difference here. And they said, "There goes the last great American dynasty. Who knows if she never showed up, what could have been? There goes the most shameless woman this town has ever seen. She had a marvelous time ruining everything." So not only is she the maddest woman this town has ever seen, but she's the most shameless woman.
Right. She knows everyone hates her. She don't give no... Can I say it? About it.
Not with that
I
much delay.
hesitated a little bit.
So we know she's embracing it. She's embracing this this hatred of her by the old money snobs.
Right.
She calls herself the bitch pack because she knows that they're all going to call her bitches anyway.
Right. And then all the neighbors can think about is like, man, how much better would our lives would be if she never showed up? Who knows if she never showed up, what could have been? How
Right.
peaceful our lives would be.
Yeah, classic old money. We just need to eat the rich.
Whoa. Wait. Eat the rich?
That's what they say.
Oh, I've never heard that phrase.
The bridge, Swifties.
Pretty good bridge, Taylor's written, one or two good bridges in her day.
I've heard a bridge or two from Taylor that weren't repeating.
Yeah, just a couple.
Maybe even a bridge from the bridge to the chorus.
Just a few.
A sub bridge.
Maybe just one.
The bridge in this particular song goes as follows. They say she was seen on occasion, pacing the rocks, staring out at the midnight sea. And, in a feud with her neighbor, she stole his dog and dyed it keen lime green. What a prank. Could you imagine stealing your neighbor's dog and then putting it in some lime green dye?
So let's back up here. So she starts the bridge by saying they say she was seen on occasion. So again, painting the image of folklore, right? Like being passed down. Oh, they say, I heard from this person, I heard from this person. And then, she's pacing the rocks, staring out at the midnight sea. So painting this image of a restless woman, like always looking for that next thrill, always looking what's next, what's the next big thing, sleepless nights. And then showing, bringing it back to, okay, the real story here is, her feud with her neighbors. And in one of her feuds with her neighbors, Taylor writes she stole his dog and dyed it key lime green. Now in reality, she stole his cat.
Oh.
A cat and painted it key lime green. But again, it's like folklore, right? As stories get passed down, details can get fuzzy, can get messed up, can get changed. So I think Taylor clearly, a simple Google search shows that it was her cat.
Huh.
I think so Taylor intentionally put in dog. It's definitely not for the lyrics because it's one syllable. It works either way. The line would sing just as easily with the word cat in there.
Right.
I think it is clearly to it's a little Easter egg of this is folklore. They say, I heard from this person, heard from this person, heard from this person. As that happens, as folklores are passed down, details can get lost and changed.
Yeah, alternatively, I wonder if we all know that Taylor loves her cats. Maybe she couldn't imagine something like this being done to a cat, so she shifted it to happening to a dog, just to save herself the anguish of thinking that somebody would steal somebody else's cat and pull this kind of prank on it. Yeah, Taylor, we already know that Taylor listens to these from 2 episodes ago.
Oh, for sure.
So I'd be
100%.
interested to hear her take on whether it was to, kind of show the Easter egg of folklore, or just because she really likes cats. The bridge goes on, second half of the bridge. 50 years is a long time. Holiday House sat quietly on that beach, free of women with madness, their men and bad habits, and then it was bought by me. So for 50 long years, this house was uninhabited.
Right. So that's where we know that this wasn't during the Roaring '20s.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it would have been 100 years is a long time that there were no parties going on. But no, based on the 50 years line, Taylor bought this house in 2013. So that's what, 1973? 1963? Yeah, 1963. So yeah, it's in the 60s, 50s, 60s that she's having all these parties. So she didn't die, Rebecca Harkness didn't die until like the 80s, but I'm sure she wasn't partying when she was like hella old. Although honestly, the way the picture's painted, maybe she was.
Yeah, maybe so.
But we get this image that, the neighbors, the families that live in this Rhode Island area, they get respite for 50 years.
Right, and they're passing their money off to their offspring, so it's the same families in those same places.
And I'm sure those
presumably.
families are telling stories of that one neighbor, right? Folklore is getting passed down.
Right.
Of this woman who died her cat, or the neighbor's cat,
right.
or dog, Key Lime Green.
Yeah, and the stories only grow over time, getting more and more ridiculous and more negative towards this person. I just confirmed Taylor did purchase this in 2013. So here's what I alluded to, that we were speaking in the third person this whole time, and then it was bought by me right at the end of the bridge. Boom, we enter the first person.
Right, and it's also transitioning. She says, for 50 years, the house was free of women with madness and men with bad habits, right? Because, the parties aren't going on. And then she says, and then it was bought by me, implying, oh, now they're back. Oh, now the women with madness and men with bad habits are back. And I think this is the line when I was first listening through the song on my first listen through Folklore, back when it came out about a month or so ago. I was like, what is this song even about? Who is this about? And then when she said, and then it was bought by me, I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Because I knew she had a Rhode Island house, and she talks about Rhode Island. I was like, oh, dang, this is actually about the person who owned the house before she did, which is really cool.
Right.
And I like how it kind of transitions to Taylor basically writing this song almost tongue-in-cheek, I am the heir of the house, in the sense that, she's thrown these big parties. She's had pools with champagne. Literally talked about that in songs before, I think. And this is why we can't have nice things.
Right.
Talking about how the parties and the chandeliers and everything, all the fancy stuff. Women with madness, men with bad habits, there. And so it's there's 50 years of peace, and now the crazy woman is back.
Yeah.
And a different name.
Her own bitch pack, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Not to use that term towards Taylor, because I would never. But you know what I mean. We get another chorus that's actually quite different from the previous choruses. I don't know if you can even call it a chorus, because it doesn't... it's only the second half of the chorus, really. Oh yeah, you know what? That's what it is. It's just the second half of the chorus. But we get another small change. Earlier we heard that this was the most shameless woman this town has ever seen.
Right, because the previous choruses were about Rebecca Harkness. Now right. Taylor's singing about herself. Right, so it's going to be different. It's in the first person.
Right. Okay. So first we heard that Rebecca was the maddest woman this town has ever seen. Then Rebecca was the loudest woman this town has ever seen.
No, the most shameless.
Sorry, I spoiled this chorus. Okay, now... maddest, shameless. Let's see what Taylor is.
I don't know. What could it be? He's probably going to edit it out.
Who knows? If I never showed up, what could have been? There goes the loudest woman this town has ever seen. I had a marvelous time ruining everything. So Taylor puts herself in the shoes of the mad woman. She had a marvelous time ruining everything. What did Taylor ruin, Captain Natty?
Her neighbors' lives. No, I mean, it's the same vein. It's Taylor's look at the person who came before me, and now she's like, oh, that was the maddest, most shameless woman. Now Taylor's the loudest woman, not only because she's having these loud parties, but also she's clearly the most popular person that's ever lived in that neighborhood.
Right.
Because Rebecca Harkness wasn't famous. She had these loud parties, but she wasn't famous,
right.
Super famous, not like Taylor Swift. Whereas now, before the neighbors only had to deal with, oh, there's another party, but now with Taylor, it's are you kidding me? There's a party, and there's security on the beach all the time.
Yeah.
There's paparazzi trying out her door. And so she had a marvelous time ruining everything, being the loudest person, not only loud in her parties, but loud in just because she's famous, and her presence is loud, if that makes sense.
Right. Given one more slap in the face to the old money, snobby rich people.
Except she earned it. Taylor earned it.
Right. She's the new money, just like Rebecca was.
No, she's the old. Well, she's not. She's new money in the sense that she earned her own money, but she's not new money in the sense that she just was given it.
Yeah. No, new money usually means you earn it.
Right, but Rebecca didn't earn it.
Right. Because in The Great Gatsby, I forget how it goes. I was going to look up the plot to this. So Nick Carraway and Jay Gatsby.
Spoilers.
I think Nick is old money and Gatsby is new money. Gatsby made his own money by less than legal means. And so Gatsby is Rebecca in this situation. Well, maybe Gatsby's Taylor in this situation, because he's the one that earned his money and now enters the the snobby area and throws these wild parties. So yeah, Gatsby is Taylor. And ironically, Gatsby is played by Leo, and we all know that Taylor doesn't think too fondly of Leo.
Let's stop talking about Gatsby and get back to the song.
The song is about Gatsby. I am talking about the song.
The song's not about Gatsby.
So there's West Egg and East Egg, and I forget which one is which. But Swifties, you got to read the book, even though I myself have never read it. But, you know, there's this tension between the new money and the old money. And, you know, Gatsby's, he's kind of like everybody can see themselves in Gatsby. Everybody wants to be that new money. Everybody thinks they've got the next idea to get rich and to move up in their lifestyle into that, into the West Egg there. And, you know, really just have those wild parties and, you know how it is, Swifties.
Anyway, so in the outro, the outro, when I was talking about earlier, the part that reminds me of Starlight, the outro musically reminds me of Starlight, the way she sings it. It's very similar style. And it fits because obviously the songs are very similar. Looking back at someone's previous life, you know, the rare historical song by Taylor Swift. So it makes sense that they would sound similar.
How'd you interpret it?
I said, like, when she says, who knows if I never showed up, what could have been? I was thinking that she was saying, like, more like, what this Rebecca, like, this legend of Rebecca could have grown into. Like, if I hadn't shown up and, like, given them something else to talk about. There goes the loudest woman this town has ever seen, is in, like, Rebecca's no more.
Rebecca leaves.
Interesting. The loudest woman this town has ever seen is now gone, being Rebecca. And so now when Taylor says, I had a marvelous time ruining everything.
She ruined everything because now they don't have anything to talk about.
Right, she ruined the legend. All right, well, Swifties, I hope you heard that. I don't know. Stevie is a little bit off screen there. But in case you didn't hear, he was talking about, I've already forgot what his point was.
Well, basically the last chorus saying, there goes the last woman this town has ever seen, is actually referring to Rebecca, and Taylor moving in and, you know, being the new talk of the town is replacing Rebecca, and now Rebecca's gone. There she goes. There goes the loudest woman this town has ever seen.
Literally there goes.
And so who knows if I never showed up, what could have been, is talking about for Rebecca's sake, for her legacy.
Well, you know, a story is worth 1,000 words.
A picture is worth 1,000 words. A story is worth as many words as it's in the story.
That's not necessarily true. Some stories are worth more or less words than they're written with. Like if I write the word blue 5,000 times in a row, that's not worth 5,000 words. But like a well-written poem might be worth more words.
That's not how that works.
I think so. I think the Swifties will agree with this.
So if you couldn't tell, my drink is just juice. His drink has alcohol in it. That explains a lot. Anyway, there you go, Swifties.
The last great American dynasty.
Cheers. And he finishes, and I'm still working on it. It's not even alcoholic. I don't know.
All right, Swifties, we'll be back here next week. Oh, that's the other thing. So if you follow us on Instagram, which, by the way, you should, that's where we really shine, is making memes.
At Swift Boys.
At Swift Boys, all one word with a Z at the end. We will be more responsive on there now that we do have an intern handling that kind of stuff for us. We haven't given her the password yet, but we will. So keep an eye out for that. The reason I brought it up is because I posted something. It was an episode of SpongeBob where they go on the hooks, and it's like the cool thing is to like bite the hook, but they're like fishing hooks, so as soon as you bite the hook, you're gonna get taken away. And so SpongeBob is looking at the hooks, and they're like calling into him.
You know, instead of explaining the meme, you could just show them.
And he says, no, because you gotta. People might not have seen the episode.
Okay.
And so he says, "You're a liar, a deceiver," to the hook, because he knows that the hook is bad for him. Even though Patrick later in the episode has like 8 hooks coming out of him, and he's just fine. But other times, you know, you grab a hook for 1 second and you're gone. They've got you. Even though they would probably throw back a sponge. Nobody wants to like, you know, fish for a sponge.
For our non-podcast friends, first of all, if you're listening to this without audio or without video, I'm sorry. I want to show the meme. So Scott can stop talking.
Oh, that's poor resolution.
That's really bad. Never mind. I tried my best. I tried to show it.
Swifties, just go to Instagram and follow us there. But anyway, the joke of that meme was that's Captain Natty, and the Swifties. No, that's Swifties. And when Captain Natty says we're going to be recording every single week and putting these out on a regular basis, the Swifties say to him, "You're a liar, a deceiver," because of course it has been more than a week. And it's going to take a little bit to edit this, especially this one. We're going to have to take out a lot of stuff.
It's actually shorter than most of our episodes. I think this will be quicker.
Yeah, it's going to be short by the time we finish editing it. So sorry for that, Swifties. If this was your favorite song, you're probably disappointed. But, next week, what do we have next?
Exile.
Exile. That's a good one. Honestly, really great song, Exile. I'm excited to talk about it.
I actually am excited to talk about it.
No, I wasn't joking.
I can never tell anymore with you.
I'm 100% serious. Exile might be the second best song on the album.
Hey, Swifties, honestly, if you haven't checked out a YouTube channel, you should just watch this one because I feel like I've been making a lot of silent facial expressions while Scott's been talking that you're just missing out on, and only listening via audio and not actually seeing it. I think this episode gains a lot from the visual medium. So if you haven't yet, check out our YouTube channel. Even if you don't want to watch it there, it would help us out if you guys subscribed and liked our videos, whatever. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of you.
So a lot of things you need to do for us Swifties. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting medium. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube. Ring the notification bell. Go back and like all of our videos. Put a comment on them. Email us at swiftboyspodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
I feel like we have more social. Oh, we have a Twitter. What's our Twitter?
We have a Twitter that we've literally never posted on. We have a Tumblr that I sometimes post on.
What's the Tumblr name?
We talk big game about social media and then we don't use it.
Well, we have an intern now.
Okay. Sure. All right, we need to end this episode.
All right, Swifties. We'll catch you next week for some Bon Iver.
Bon Iver. I'm sorry for this guy. About this guy.
Click over here for our previous episode. Click over here for, a link to some kind of social media. Click my face for a link to whatever I put there.